Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibis, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. We're going to jump into day 4 of the Robert Tellis trial. Before we get started, if you're watching on YouTube, you know the drill. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video, share it with your friends, and you can ring my bell if you want notifications of when I post new content. Click the little bell icon. Music fact of the day. Jackson Browne co-wrote the Eagles' hit song, Take It Easy. He started writing that on a road trip that took him through Winslow, Arizona. The state rested today on day 4 of testimony in the Robert Tellis trial. We're going to run through some of the first witnesses. Of course, we ended the day with the lead investigator on the case, and that's who you're seeing right now if you're watching on YouTube. The first witness was Taylor Oliver. She was the one that conducted the undercover surveillance on Tellis before the murder. She explains they're given objectives and enough context of the case to explain what those objectives are, but they don't know the whole story. She was the one watching Robert the day before the murder on September 1st. That was at the request of Detective Jappy. They admit photos from that day. There's a photo of his car, one of him getting out of the car, and then another of him walking towards the house. On cross, the defense asked if there were any actions that were suspicious. The witness said that she doesn't get to decide what's suspicious. She forwards the information that she gathers to the investigator. But that day, he went to Target, picked up a child from the bus stop, and then returned home. She was also watching him on September 6th. She was the one that saw him washing the 3 vehicles, the Tesla, the BMW, and the Yukon. She did not see him cleaning the inside of the cars from where she was. She did see cameras on the outside of his home, but they were not there the day before the murder. On September 1st, they were there the 6th. The next witness, Christy Baxter. She's a crime scene analyst supervisor. She was at the PA's office for the search warrant that took place there. They just showed some photos from Robert's office as part of that search warrant. And on cross, they asked, Detective Jappy was there and collected his own evidence. The witness said, I know he took his own photos, but not sure if he collected anything. They reiterate, he was not a part of your homicide team. No. The next witness, Matt Hovanes, Las Vegas Metro Police Department supervisor in the digital forensics lab. He downloaded the reports from Robert's phone, a Google Pixel 6, and also his desktop computer there at work. On June 21st of 2022, Robert searched on his phone, Jeff Gearman, Las Vegas. There were several searches that day. August 19th, a little less than a month before the murder, there is a Google photo on the cloud, and it shows a photo of those gray Nikes that the suspect is seen wearing walking near Jeff's house. And then also on September 5th, 3 days after the murder, Jeff installed a home security surveillance app. In August, from the Google Photos app, they found 132 Google Map images of Jeff's house. There were 101 more on August 15th. August 23rd, there were 7 images on Google Photos. It was reports about Jeff's Honda Civic. He was doing kind of a background check on him. It shows his address, and that photo was taken of the results that was on a Dell computer. On cross, how many devices had access to the cloud? And the witness can't say. Essentially, the defense was claiming that maybe this cloud was hacked after hours, but then the witness does the math for the UTC time difference and concludes those searches were done during normal business hours. And the defense asked the witness that the security system was downloaded in the days after Jeff's death. Could someone get a camera to protect themselves? And that was it. On a redirect, any evidence that this phone had been hacked or the information on the cloud was corrupted? No. The last witness for the state before they arrested, who I loved, she was a great witness, really held her own on the stand, Detective Gaddis. She was the lead detective on this case. She goes through arriving at the scene, putting out those press releases showing the suspect walking around as well as the vehicle. They received a lot of tips. Some of those were saying that they should consider Robert as a suspect. She does some research into Robert and finds those articles Jeff had written about him. She said they weren't flattering. They showed the articles and the headlines on the screen. There were posts by Robert on June 18th. We've heard this previously in testimony where he tweets out that his wife hears rustling in the trash, wondering if it's an animal. And Robert says, no, it's Jeff writing another article about me. They show another post where he calls Jeff a bully. They read through the text messages between Robert and Jeff after that article came out. They also show the response that Robert posted on his campaign website to that first article. They learn Robert's wife has the same car as the suspect vehicle, and they go through how they got all their surveillance. It's extensive. They go to the last place the vehicle is seen, which would have been Jeff's, and then they just go backwards. They learn of the foreign DNA under Jeff's fingernails. It was run initially through the CODIS database with no match. She said they finally get this search warrant around 2 a.m. on September 7th for Robert's DNA. A lot of factors went into that, the video evidence of the Yukon at Jeff's house, and she said other facts surrounding their tense relationship. Robert was pulled over around 7 a.m. to get the DNA. The witness was asleep when he was pulled over, but she gets up and comes to the road where he was being detained in the police vehicle and tells Robert they have a search warrant. At that point, they take him to the station, take the photos, do the DNA. She said she has never seen DNA come back that fast, but it was marked as a high priority. As the search warrant is taking place at Robert's house, she's getting updates about the evidence they're finding in the home, including those shoes, one of which was halfway cut up, the hat, the bag. Robert was only home less than an hour before the DNA results came in, and then they decide to arrest him. They go back to May 15th of 2022. There is a text from Robert to Jeff saying that his article wasn't fair or balanced. He says he's very distraught. He has been followed by Rita, the woman that works in the office with him and also won that election. And he tells Jeff, you took it on her word. You valued sensationalism rather than telling the truth. Thanks for helping him to drop more pressure on my life. They show a video attached to that first article. It's the one of him and Rita getting out of the back seat of the car. And then also there's a video that shows Robert walking down a hall in his office, which Jeff Gehrman took when he came to the PA's office to sit down and talk to Robert. On the phone, they looked through Robert's history of searching news articles, and a lot of those were the ones Jeff wrote about him. There were thumbnails of photos that Robert had taken. The Nike shoes were seen in a thumbnail on his phone. They were sitting next to a pair of rock climbing shoes. There were screenshots of news articles, screenshots of how to push negative search results down, screenshots of Twitter posts that were critical of Robert. There were photos on Robert's phone that were taken on his work computer. So he just took a photo of the screen that he had up in the results. There were searches for Jeff. She explains there is a program called IDI Core that is used to find people, relatives, prior home addresses, email addresses. The PA's office would have had access to this. They go over again, finding images of Jeff's house on Robert's phone, a couple of hundred screenshots of street views of Jeff's property. They talk about the angry voicemails that Jeff got. They were political in nature, and Jeff had written an article on political extremists in January of 2021, and they felt like that was probably the basis for those threatening voicemails that were just full of F-bombs. On cross, of course, the defense says you can't say when the messages were left for Jeff on voicemail. No. The initial press release was on September 6th. And then you say after these press releases, you start getting tips. The witness said they started getting tips on the 4th, but specifically about Robert once that video was out. He asked if she received tips from Detective Jappy. Yep. You wrote a report on the case? Yes. Defense asked if Detective Jappy implicated Robert. She said that Detective Jappy said he could be a person of interest. The defense asked, did Detective Jappy say that Robert posted a rant on Twitter? And she said, I don't know if he used the word rant or if that's the word I used in my report. The defense asked, did Detective Jappy say Robert may have had motive to murder Jeff? She says, yes. The defense says, it is fair to say that that's implicating Robert. And the witness says, he said that Robert could have motive. I didn't take that as an implication. I still have to investigate this case. Did Detective Jappy say Robert was upset because of the articles? And she says, yes. And the defense points out that this is 4 months after the article that Jeff was murdered. The defense asked if there was a large number of possible suspect cars. The witness said she wouldn't say it was a large number. She's asked, did Detective Jappy call you twice and then you solely focused on what he said? And she said, we were focused on that Denali because we followed it back to his neighborhood, meaning Robert's neighborhood. They talk about the search warrant being done at 2 a.m. The state asked if you submitted it to the judge for approval and you have to prepare an affidavit in support. She said, yeah, I have to put forth the evidence I feel I have to warrant that search warrant. She did not know at the time of writing that search warrant that Robert was seen washing 3 different cars. Just the one is what she put in there. He points out patrol officers should wear body cam, and you would presume whoever pulled Robert over would have their body cam running. Are you aware of multiple requests by the defense to obtain that body cam? And she said yes. She's asked, are you aware that body cam was destroyed or erased a month and a half after that request was made? She said, if you say so, I don't doubt it. You record your interactions with Robert? She says yes. She only does audio. Detectives don't wear body cam. And she said she records a lot to defend her integrity in case it's ever called into question. The defense says, you tell Robert you have a warrant and he was being detained? Yes. Is he handcuffed? She wasn't sure if he was or not. He was in the back of the police vehicle when she got there and the door was shut. He talks about 3 different reports were prepared from her interactions with Robert. The first couple were just a few pages, and then the last one, the third, was 49 pages. And the defense points out on this one, we have Detective Jappy present. Did he just appear? And the witness said, no, I asked him to come. The defense asked if it's reasonable to assume Robert was concerned. And she said, I don't want to put words or emotions on anybody. She said he did say he wanted to see his wife and kids. The defense asked, is he told the press is at his house? And she said, I know by the time we got to area command, he knew. The defense asked if Robert said something about his alarm waking him up. And did Detective Jappy say, you don't have to worry about that again? The witness did not remember hearing that. There was communication between Robert and Detective Jappy, both with her in the room and not in the room. The defense goes through some of the things that she said to him when he was being detained about the great amount of stress he must be under. I don't think any of us could comprehend the amount of stress you've been through. The witness agreed. She said that. This is part of the interrogation process, or at least talking to a suspect, is you try to get them comfortable with you and you try to earn their trust by making them feel like you're sympathetic towards them. This is nothing new. She's asked if they sized those shoes that were recovered in Robert's home. No, she did not come in contact with those shoes. That would have been a crime scene analyst job, and she personally did not size his feet. The defense says there's been a lot of exhibits about the shoes and you have no idea what size they are. She says, no, I've never seen those shoes in person. The defense goes back to some of the things she said while he was in the police station. You talk about how his family must be suffering through the stress of all this. He should make it easy on his family. They don't deserve to struggle with this. And she agrees. She said all that. She also said there comes a time when things have to be answered to. You need to own up to what happened, if not for anyone, for your family. Your family's collateral damage. Talks about how hard all of this is going to be on his family. And she agrees, yes, I said that. He asked if, in her opinion, the car seen in surveillance was identical to the one his wife owned. Yes. The defense points out that Robert is right-handed and the injury to the finger is on the left hand. He goes through all the photos they took there in the police station, torso, side, back, legs, in his underwear, and she agrees there were no visible injuries on him other than that one on the finger. They bring out the jeans he was wearing at the time he was detained, and I'm not sure why, but the defense asked if they processed those jeans. She said, no, we took them. And then from there, crime scene will do a visual inspection to see if there's any signs of blood or anything on those pants. Mind you, this is days after Jeff was murdered, by the way. The defense asked if he was sent home in that hazmat suit. Yes, there's video of him going into his garage in that hazmat suit. It's out there if you want to see it. They bring up the realtor, Zach Schilling. They ask if he was alone when he interviewed with them. Nope. Miss Riffle was there, the woman that testified right after him last week at trial. The defense asked if there had been bad blood between Mr. Schilling and Robert. She said, I don't remember anything notable. Now, he has her look at the report and say that Zach Schilling called Robert an a-hole. That was something that was asked last week of both of those witnesses. They said no. The defense says, you said Detective Jappy helped you. You said that in the beginning of this cross, that he assisted. She said, yes. The defense says, following the results of the DNA test, Detective Jappy reached out to Robert to say, you're being arrested. The witness said she was not present for that phone call. The defense asks about the video of Robert and Roberta getting out of the car. She confirms somebody in the PA's office did that, and that was not police surveillance. On a redirect, they just established that they could never find out who called and left that threatening voicemail for Jeff Gearman. And when Detective Jappy brings Tellis to your attention, and he's there the day of the search warrant, he's there on September 7th, the day Robert is arrested. Is he involved at any point in the homicide investigation after that? No. They didn't confer with him at all past that point, according to the witness. She reiterates she cannot delete body cam. Is something that the vendor works out with the department. They did try to recover it. They were not successful. The defense says someone is accessing the body cam months before it's destroyed. She says, yes, actually, it's overwritten, like when we pull surveillance from somebody's house, but it's been overwritten. And the defense gets a little aggressive here and says, yeah, well, this is a murder investigation and not surveillance. You said after September 7th, Detective Jappy was not involved. And she said not to her recollection, but they point out that a witness last week testified that on September 8th, the day after Robert was arrested, Detective Jappy was present at the search warrant at the PA's office. The witness then remembers that. The defense points out he was taking photos, and she said, I did not see him take his own photos, so she can't testify to that. You don't know what the detective was doing there all the time, fair to say. The witness gives a smile, kind of like, okay, whatever, I'll say yes. And that was it, and the state rested. So tomorrow we start the defense case. Great, great witness in this lead detective. She held her own. She really did not stumble a bit at times. She conceded things that she needed to. I thought she was a good, strong way to tie this all together for the state. I think it's going to be such a hard sell to this jury that you have so many different departments, according to the defense, who is just really insinuating that Robert was framed. Oh, man. I don't know if this is going to be a very long deliberation or not. We will see. But the biggest thing is this. I think this case wraps up this week. And as we know, Robert Tellis is set to take the stand. So I'll bring you the first day of the defense case tomorrow. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening. We will see you soon.